Hey guys, thank you for joining me on this Friday night. Friday. All right. We're going to be talking about working internships and is it worth it to work an internship? And test day inspiration, test day motivation. If you're about to take your medical coding certification exam, tonight's episode is for you. So we all need that last minute pep talk, so that's what I'm going to be talking about tonight. Hope you all had a great week. Hi, Stelisa. Thank you for joining me. And if you guys have any questions during the show, feel free to ask because it's an open forum tonight. Since I have a topic, are internships worth it? But, just in case, I always like to let people decide what they want to hear too. So, and also talking about test day. When it's that test day, when you're taking your medical coding certification exam, what do? Are you ready? And you got to get in there and get it done. All right, so I will have a very busy weekend this weekend, but that is okay. That's always a good thing. I'm always happy for that. Hi, BT. Long time no see. I was just going to say I've been busy. Hope all is well. All is great. Thank you for asking. And I hope all is well with you as well. All right, so I guess we can go ahead and get started. Because usually right after I say that is when more people come in. That's the way it always goes. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. Tonight, I am going to be talking about, are internships in medical coding worth it? Because they notoriously pay either nothing or they pay very little. And test day inspiration motivation. So let us begin. All right. Are medical coding internships worth it? You know, a lot of people will say, well, Blue, I'm trying to find a job. I can't find a job because everybody wants experience. But how are you supposed to get experience if no one will hire you? So they get tempted to go into these internships that are either unpaid or they are working for a very low wage. Here's the thing, and this is how I feel about internships. While, yes, there are some internships that will train you on all the things that you didn't learn while you were in school. And sometimes what they're training you on is just basic stuff. And you feel like it's a lot more better because it's not what you learned in school. And that's okay. But I look at it like this. We have all been technically trained. We were technically trained to do this work. And we were going through all these things, learning it. And to get either paid nothing or get paid very little, like really under the market value, is almost insulting. And so I do not recommend that route. Now, if you want to do it and that's what you want to do because you want to put some experience on your resume and you have the time and you have all of that to be able to volunteer yourself basically to be working for either nothing or very little, that is entirely up to you. I'm just telling you what my point of view is. When I first got my certification, there was a university hospital in my hometown, and they pay coders a fraction, probably a third of what the national average is. And that's what their coders start out at. And I refused to work for that because they said, well, there's this job here, but I was making literally less than I made working at the bar. I don't think so. Not after going through all the school and everything I had to learn. I was not going to make less. And even though it was just for a certain amount of time, it was going to take me out of looking for a job and finding something better. And I was going to get stuck there. So I was like, no, I'm not doing that, because to me, it's insulting to make people work for something so less when they've already proven. If you can prove your skill, if you can prove that you know enough about coding to get in somewhere, that you've passed your national certification exam, that's enough. That should not make you have to work for free or very little so that somebody else can benefit. Because at the end of the day, when you are being trained and you are working in an internship where you're spending your time and not getting paid or getting paid very little, somebody else is benefiting off of the things that you're doing. So if you're actually coding, yes, you're getting coding experience, work experience, but again, you've been technically trained, and they would be paying somebody that is just somebody with experience, way more, but they're sort of looking at the situation. Some companies, I will not say all of them, but some of them are just basically taking advantage of new graduates and making them work for very little and getting basically cheap labor. So to me, again, when you have skill, you should not spend your time at places that are going to take advantage of you. And there's a lot of people in the beginning, especially when you are brand new with no experience and you're trying to get experience, that will try to take advantage of you. So this is why I tell you guys to be proactive in your approach to looking for jobs. Go get registered with a temp agency, and I'm going to sound like a broken record until y'all start doing it, because the temp agency will help you to find a job, because that's their job, is to get you a job, because they want you to work. And so for all of these alternative positions that you're going in, it is going to be putting that experience on your resume, and look at everything that you're doing. If you're working in a hospital and they're training you on the electronic medical record that they have for that particular hospital, and you happen to be doing something like risk adjustment or something like that, that's fine, because that's still experience, and that is still that you have another skill on your resume to go with. So that is what I would recommend on that. When it comes to how you get started, again, there's many alternative positions, and not just that, the titles of medical coders are listed differently everywhere you go. The other night we were talking about that some of them say revenue integrity specialist, and that's how they find for medical coder, because as you're reading the description of these job listings, that's when you find out that that's actually a medical coder that they want. Sometimes they'll say health information tech, sometimes they'll say medical coder, sometimes they'll say medical biller and coder, and again, they say, some of them say revenue integrity and things like that. So that the alternative names is what you want to look under. Prior authorizations is another one, because while you're not coding, it is giving you exposure to codes. So when you get exposure to codes, at least you are able to get some type of something to fill out your resume. Hi, Floor. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the blue heart. But that's what I'll say on that. All the time that you spend in school, that should be for something. That should not be for nothing. And don't get taken advantage of. Don't spend money when you don't need to. I have heard of somebody that said that they were offered an internship with a company that was making the coder pay them for experience. Yeah. No. You've already gone through a program. And while you may learn something, you shouldn't have to pay to learn, just so you can have experience on your resume. Don't pay for internships, guys. That does not make any sense. You either work for free, you work for very little, but you don't pay the company to work for experience, because basically then you're paying to have that experience letter. And that doesn't make any sense at all, because what are you learning then? That's what I would say. But anyway, and as far as it is, if you are going to take your medical coding certification exam, we talked about this yesterday, but I figured since it was in the tail end of yesterday's conversation, I will pick it back up today. Taking your medical coding certification exam should not be scary. It should not be scary, because it is not a surprise. You know it's coming. You know at the end of your program, whenever you are getting signed up for your exam, you know it's coming. So with that, you already expect it. When you expect it, then you should be welcoming of it. You should be looking forward to it. You should be ready for it. The thing that scares us is the things that we don't know, right? Whenever you don't know something, it does get scary. But as you spend time learning it, then it helps you to get that confidence. And everybody can gain confidence. That it's not for the selected few. It's not for, oh, that person's real confident, this other person's real confident, but I'm not that way. Yes, you can be. So if you're thinking that you can't be, you can. The enemy in this situation is yourself and that negative self-talk. You have to get rid of that negative self-talk, because when it comes down to brass knuckles and you're in that exam room, it is just you and that test. And that test is not going to be foreign. It's not. It is going to be everything that you've learned in your medical coding program or on your own. It's going to be that. It's not going to ask you something, some obscure question. It will cover the topics that you've already covered yourself in your program or by yourself in self-study. So if you have that, there are going to be some questions that you're going to be allowed to get wrong. You don't have to get 100% in order to pass these tests. The associations have a different number of how many you can miss. With a HEMA, there's no telling. But you have to score over a 300 with a HEMA. And with AAPC, you have to get 105 right on the CPC exam. When you look at all of the things that stop us from doing really great things in life, it is usually, and it's us telling us ourselves that we can't do something. When you have spent as much time with these books as you should have, and all the time in school, think about why you decided to do this. Why did you want to pursue medical coding? And let that be your driver. When I went to go take my CCA back in 2008, I had an excited feeling when I went in to take the exam. I was scared. I was scared because I didn't know what to expect. I still felt good enough that I was going to do well on the test, because I do like to study. And so that was where my strength was. Okay, I've studied and I've been studying and I've been going over all of these things. So I can do this. I can do this. And that was my thought process. But I still felt that. And when you feel those things, acknowledge it and move forward and let that propel you. Because my whole thing was, I did not want to fail, because that would mean that I would still be stuck working at the bar, working at the halfway house, working at all these places that I didn't want to work. So that's why I said, okay, I want to do this, and I want to work in a nice place, and dress nicely, and not work around such crazy people. And so that's why I feel like I was able to do well, because I had it in my mind. I already had my mind made up. When you have your mind made up about something, there's really nothing that can stop you at that point. Look at rebellious teenagers who will find a way to get whatever they want. It's the same mentality that you have to think of when you are going into your medical coding exam, whether you're taking an exam with a HEMA or AAPC. And sometimes people just get so overwhelmed with all of these horrible things. Well, why don't you start thinking about what could go right instead of what could go wrong? There's all that negativity of, oh, well, what if this, what if that? Well, what if you do pass? Start thinking like that. Start thinking, well, when I do pass and I get this, I'm going to do this. So you have your goal instead of being so afraid of it. Because like I've said before, you only get one life, and that's all you get. If you spend your life being afraid, that's what your whole life is going to be about. And do you want to get to retirement age and say, I wish I was never afraid. I wish I wasn't so scared to take that step. Because at the end of the day, if anything happens, you're just going to take it again. Take the test again. And take it until you get what you want. Study hard, and you've already studied hard. And don't let anything get in your way. When you let things get in your way, it's going to rob you of a bright future that you could have. And having a good attitude about well, there's going to be this challenge of finding my first job, but that's okay because I can apply with a temp agency, like Bleu said, who keeps harping on it. And go in there armed with your resume. Go in there armed with your certification and be ready instead of being scared. And don't say, oh, I want to work in an easy clinic. Working, I got. the second job I had, they asked me, well, are you sure? Do you want to work in profi coding? I said, I'll do anything. I'll go anywhere, wherever you need me. That was my attitude. And they liked that. They were like, okay, good, because nobody wants to do profi coding. I said, all right, bring it on. That profi coding got me my job here. And this is the best place that I feel I could be. Hi, Rochelle. Thank you for all the blue hearts. So, but yes, if you're out there and it's going to be about time for your showdown with that certification exam, just go in there and give it your best shot. That's all you can do. And be proud of whatever the result is, whether it was in your favor or not in your favor. Be proud. Be proud because you were brave enough to go in it in the first place. You are doing something that there's people out there that are so afraid they will not take the exam. This one lady commented about a month ago now. She said that she had been so scared to take her certification exam, but then she heard my message and she said, no, I'm going to do this. And she went and she took her exam and she passed. And she said she was so happy that she cried. Well, good. Now you have your certification and you have a bright new future now. And all because she had to get rid of that fear. Whatever you have to do to get rid of that fear, whether it is you have to block out everything else and just go in and just give it your best shot, then just do that. But don't let all those unsubstantiated, unfounded thoughts get in your way, because it's a shame to see that and especially after you've invested all that money to go to school. And Lord knows what else you had to do to get that money, as far as like go through these programs or go through, these loan things to get the money to be able to go through those programs. Don't let that be for naught. That's your time. That's your energy. Let it be towards something that you're going to get yourself into, which, like I say, is always a good thing. I love medical coding and I love this field. And like I said, I wouldn't want to do anything else. Alma says, I took my exam. Okay. Congratulations. That's great. But yeah, so does anybody have any questions? Anybody gonna take their exam? Anybody? And another thing too, when you're about to take your exam, don't tell everybody. I mean, I know I just asked y'all, but like your friends and stuff like that, and posting it all over Instagram and stuff, don't do that, because then you're gonna have somebody always saying something, and you don't want nobody in your ear around this time. Don't let anybody in your ear. Flora says, do you bill and code, or do you just code? I just code. If there's ever an issue with anything that I've coded, the billers will let me know. And then I will educate them on why I selected what I selected. Alma says, I took my exam twice. My score was in the high 60 range, so I didn't pass. I'm sorry. Are you going to take it again? I'm assuming you took an AAPC exam. Retha says, I took my exam and missed it by 28 points. Oof. Did you take an AAPC exam too, Retha? See, I like that. Thank you, Flor. Flor says, you will pass it next time, Alma. Alma says yes, AAPC. Did you run out of time, or was it like a particular section that you didn't get? Because you were able to miss 40 questions, right? 45 questions, something like that. So you have to kind of look at what happened. At least you were scoring in the high 60s, so you're close. But if you're telling me that you scored in the 60s, that means that you need to spend a little bit more time on the subjects that you missed, and especially because you have your scoring sheet. That's the good thing about APC. I ran out of time. Okay, so that was my other thing. Either you ran out of time, or you were going too slow, or you were on the fence and thinking too much. When it comes to, I'll get back to you, Retha. But when it comes to running out of time, you only have that 5 hours, 40 minutes, right? I always want to say 5.5, but it's 5 hours, 40 minutes. So it comes out to about 2 minutes per question. Sometimes people get hung up because they see all these words, right? When you're looking at these notes, these op notes or whatever, or these op note scenarios, and they're taking all this time to look at every single thing. You don't have to look at all the details, guys. What you do need to do is look at what was the final diagnosis. What did they do? You can skip a lot of the beginning part where it was just like induction of anesthesia and all this and that. Get to the heart of the matter, which is towards the end of the op note. And that will tell you what were the findings and that kind of thing. So when you look at your available choices, you can make process of elimination, get rid of the two that do not make sense, and know your modifiers, because sometimes I've seen those practice tests where those modifiers come into play. And that's the thing. I mean, that'll automatically tell you. Knowing where the sections are in your book is going to also help you too, because if you're looking at a scenario and you see, okay, all the procedures that are listed here are in the 10,000 series, and you have one that's sticking out like a sore thumb in the 20,000 series, well, chances are either that's the right answer or that's the wrong answer. So that's the thing. I mean, that's the one that sticks out like a sore thumb. So you're going to check it out and make sure, is that what's happening here? What is going on? But being able to spot those things right away. Oh, if it's in the 10,000, that's the integumentary. If it's in the 20,000, that's a musculoskeletal, and so on and so forth. When you can do that with the procedure book, oh, that's going to make looking at these answers a lot easier. That's the thing about AAPC, having multiple choice. The whole thing is multiple choice, and they're not trying to trick you. They are trying to. These are the possible answers. Which one is it? So I recommend for you, Alma, is going back through your book and making sure that you're familiar with where each section starts, the 10,000 integumentary, 20,000 musculoskeletal, and so on, and going through there like that. Make sure that you get familiar with the whole book, because if you're flip-flopping back and forth and trying to figure out and look at all these things, that's taking up your time too. If you ran out of time and you were just guessing at the last minute, you have 45 that you can miss, but that's not what you want to concentrate on. You want to be able to get through efficiently. So knowing the book back and forth is going to help you. And that would be what I would recommend. Make a decision and move on. Don't try to get hung up on something. Get hung up on it, it can take away from the rest of the exam. And you're spinning wheels over something that you could have just selected it and moved on. They do say that, if you're taking the paper-based exam with AAPC, that you can go through all the easy ones first and then go back to the harder ones that you feel, so that way you can get through the majority of your test, whatever you feel like you can finish quickly, and then go back and get through the harder ones and work through those as quickly as you can. So I would just recommend keep practicing with the book. Use that CPC study guide. I like it because it gives you all the answers, like the rationale stuff. I like it. I also like the the book that we've reviewed. I do like this one. Even though there are some errors in it, it's okay because it's teaching you to be sharper. But this actual book is 600 questions and it was designed for the AAPC CPC exam. However, if you are taking an AHEMA exam, this can help you as well because AHEMA does test on the outpatient setting, and this is all outpatient coding stuff. So it is helpful. And it does have those soft questions on anatomy and medical terminology and compliance and regulatory. So again, it's a very helpful little book, and it does have the rationale. Some of the codes have been updated, and if they've been updated, you'll be able to tell, you know. Retha says she took the CCA, she got a 272. And you're welcome, Alma. So with the CCA, missing it by 28 points is not the same as what you would think, right? Because the way that AHEMA scores their exam it's different. So whatever your percentages were for those particular subjects, because they will tell you when they print out your scores, you will know what you scored in each section. Whatever you scored on the lowest, obviously you need to work on that. If it was on the diagnosis part, obviously you need to work on that. The CCA covers both inpatient and outpatient, so that is a very difficult test to begin with anyway, even for beginners. So that's something where you have to bring your A game. If you are not strong in ICD-10 PCS, if you are not strong in CPT, it will come back to bite you. You have to have had practice, and you have to know your root operations in ICD-10 PCS. You have to understand those inpatient coding rules, MSDRGs, and all that good stuff that happens on the inpatient side of the house. And if you're not familiar with that, that's where you got to start. Same thing with the outpatient. If you are going through all the outpatient stuff and you just don't understand CPT, that's where you got to start spending your time. You have to start studying that CPT book like it's going out of style, okay? Because with CPT, the codes are already built for you. I mean, there is no building the codes. It's not like the ICD-10 PCS where you're building those codes. But for some people, they do really good with the inpatient ICD-10 PCS, but they just can't seem to comprehend the CPT book. I am the opposite. Where I'm really strong with CPT, but the ICD-10 PCS was the one that made me nervous. But I studied, and I studied hard. And if you have the Optum 360 ICD-10 PCS book, they do have the quiz in the back with the answers, where you're going through those exercises, you're looking up those procedures, and if you're actually doing that and taking the time to work through those exercises, it will help you. Because there's nothing worse than going through that exam and not knowing the approaches. And I think that for me, when I studied for the CCS and I did the back of that ICD-10 PCS book, that was what helped me to pass, because going through all of that and understanding those approaches made me a lot more confident, and it helped me to be like, okay, I can do this, versus if I had just relied on just my outpatient knowledge, I would have been in really big trouble. So, but yeah, that's what I would recommend for you, Rintha. It is not an easy exam. It's not. And if you ran out of time, if you're not getting through the exam and finishing, that's probably part of the problem too. If you're not finishing the exam, you really need to work on your timing. You can't be reading everything as far as like all in detail. That clock is ticking. You got to watch that clock. I watched the clock when I took my CCS because I had gotten through only so much in that first hour, and I got kind of nervous. I was like, okay, I got to hurry up because I only have 3 more hours to go. And I was watching that clock all the way till it got to the last half hour, and I'm sweating now because I'm trying to hurry up and finish this last part of the test. And I was not going to not complete that test just because I ran out of time. And I said, okay, I went through there and I did the best I could. I said, all right, here we go. And I passed. So take the time, get familiar. And I'm going to tell you, Rintha, what I told Alma. Make sure that you look at your book. If you're not familiar with your book, then you need to make sure that you're flipping each and every single page. Don't read everything, but make sure that you're reading, okay, the you don't have to read the whole ICD-10 CM, CPT, and the ICD-10 PCS. But what you do have to do is look at the pages. Don't rely on the CCA prep book. If that is what you're doing, like that you're relying on it to, okay, well, I did really good on the prep book, so I should do really good on the exam. Those questions, as you've seen, they are not on the exam. That book will not help you. The CCA exam prep book will not help you. And I will say that too about the CCS book, and I will say that about the CCS-P book. It will not help you. You have to study what they tell you in the on the website, because so a lot of people come to me and say, well, Bleu, what the heck? You know, I spent $100 something on this exam prep book and it didn't help me, because it's just designed to give you that mock feeling. It's not designed to be like, okay, if you do good on this practice book, then you're going to do really well on the exam. So I would avoid studying with that book to begin with. I would go with the ones that I've been recommending, which is because I say that because I went through this. I went through not one, but 2 exams this year, and I passed them both. So this, what I'm telling you to study, is helpful, okay? This is going to help you with the diagnosis coding and the ICD-10 PCS coding. This is the one that I keep saying that this is the reason that I was able to pass the CCS exam, because I like the way that AHA does the scenarios in here, and I like the way that they explain things. They explain the diagnosis coding and the ICD-10 PCS coding. So if you're taking a CCS or a CCA exam, study with this book, because it's got really good scenarios in the back, and it's got the answers with the rationale. So while this is a 2019 book, if you get the latest book, it's going to have the same questions, but just some updated codes. You'll know that it's an updated code. So to me, just get the cheaper version. That's what I did. Hello, working 2021, and I was working with the 2019 book. So I recommend that book for study if you are studying for the CCS or the CCA, because it's really good with those ICD-10 PCS scenarios and explaining them. I felt like that helped me to prepare better. And I do have the CCS HEMA exam prep book. I do have that one, the latest one. And to me, it's just like, okay, I almost use it as an afterthought, because, I mean, obviously it's not going to prepare you, because they can't. I mean, it has to be something completely opposite, but still give you that feeling of going through the motions of the test. So that way you can pace yourself and see. But again, I would work with something like the AHA book. And you can find it on Amazon, right? And I do leave the link for the books that I recommend in the description box. And I will be leaving it again when I update the description box of this video. So that would be what I would say. And if you're skeptical about following my advice, again, I took 2 tests this year and I passed them both. And I would not tell you guys something that I wouldn't do myself. Okay, I have nothing to gain telling y'all how I studied. Anne says, Bleu, you're so right. I appreciate that. But, you know, it's true. I wouldn't tell you guys what I wouldn't want somebody to tell me. You know what I mean? Like, I would want somebody to tell me what they thought. Truly, really and truly. And not that, oh yeah, if you prep with that. Because I've had many people come to me and tell me, well, Bleu, I prepped with the book and I should have been able to pass. No, that prep book is just a means of just preparing you, going through the motions, not actually what the material of the test is. So to me, it's a waste almost, right? To be going through that when you can actually go through something like the AHA workbook and really learn the way that they're explaining it. And I like their plain English approach to explaining. And so that's how I look at the AHA book. And you know, with Optum 360, everybody knows I love them. But in the back, it has those procedures listed, and it has all of the answers as well. So it has it listed twice. One's with the answers and one's without the answers. So you can take your time, go through and work through the book. If you don't understand how to code a particular procedure, look the answer and then go back and start looking at those key words. And I did that. The example that I always tell y'all is when I learned about resection. In my CPT head, a removal is a removal is a removal is a removal. You look up removal in here, oh no. It goes, ICD-10 PCS goes completely the opposite direction. But if you say total removal, now my ICD-10 PCS head says, oh, okay, that means resection. The language is different. So understanding those approaches and the root operations and all that good stuff, that's what's going to help you get more proficient with the book so that you can get through faster. So again, that would be what I would recommend on that. Hi, Angela. Thank you for joining me. And if your approach has been the same and you keep failing, change your approach. That's the problem. If you have the same approach and you failed it the first time and then you took it again, either immediately afterward or as soon as you could afterward, and you failed it again, then that means you're repeating something that you're doing. You can't do the same thing and expect different results, right? Everybody knows this. You cannot keep doing the same action and expect something different. So that's why I'm telling you guys, try it my way. Just try it. Opening up the book, looking at all the pages, going through, and if you're taking the CCS or the CCA, working with the ICD-10 PCS book in the back of the Optum book, working with the AHA book to help you learn the diagnosis coding and the ICD-10 PCS procedure coding. Work with the CPC exam prep book, which right now is sold out on Amazon. Darn it. But work with that book to help you with the CPT portion of your test. If you're even if you are with a HEMA. Desiree says, we are also blessed to be here and have this beautiful Bleu blessing us to help us all. I'm truly grateful to you, Bleu. Thank you so much. And thank you for all the blue hearts. I love that. It just makes my heart happy. Thank you so much. But yes, it's true. It's true, guys. And why do I say these things? Why do I do this? Because I want the next generation of medical coders to think like I do. There was nobody like me at my time when I was brand new in 2008. There was nobody like me out there. And I didn't even think to look on YouTube for help. But there was nobody like me back then. There's still nobody like me. I'm an original. But I will say this. There are people that know that I love what I do. And I take it personally because, again, we impact so many people. It's not just about being a coder and having your job and working for the doctor. The doctor's impacted, the facility's impacted, the patients are impacted. Most of all, the patients. Because how many of us have heard about those patients that go into medical bankruptcy because of wrong selection of codes, or codes that were selected that were really expensive, and then when they go back for an audit, oh, well, wait a second, maybe this wasn't actually supported. Be high caliber, guys. That's what I want. That's why I share what I share. And it's not just me being harping and telling you guys this. It's telling you so that maybe you'll be thinking about it later, but like, oh yeah, Bleu said, maybe I really should try that. Gotta try different sometimes. Rita, you're right. Thanks. Floor, you can find the book on Walmart.com. See? That is awesome. Which online school do you recommend? I have said that when it comes to the online schools, because I have never been to any of the online trade schools and stuff like that, I only recommend going through the associations themselves, HEMA or AAPC.com. Both of them have their online medical coding programs. So you can go through either one of them. They both run about the same. It's about $4,000 give or take with all the fees, books and everything. So that is what I recommend if you're looking to do that. There are college programs. Again, I don't know every school, so I can't say, and I would never want to recommend something that I don't know personally. You know, I've had scumbag trade schools come to me and say, oh, well, you know, if you promote our school, we'll pay you. You can't buy me. You can't buy me. I'm not going to tell my audience who come to me for straightforward information some BS about, oh, well, you know, you get this free certificate. It's not free. It's not free. You still have to maintain it with CEUs. CEUs are, by the way, for that one, are a little hard to find because it's not a HEMA or AAPC. So if it's not a HEMA or AAPC, do not waste your time. You know, that's what I would recommend. Let's see. Hi, Justin. Justin says, I agree, Blue. Remembering my dental bill, someone messed up on the coding for those, and it really upset me. The cost of healthcare is such a source of anxiety for all of us. And you're welcome, Dr. Fate. But yeah, it is. And you really need to know what you're doing. You know, thank you. Because we have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. Justin says, Blue, I'm glad you did that. You are the one trustworthy source I have found on YouTube. And that is a high compliment coming from you, sir, because I know you do your research. And all the things that you have said before about some of the other things that I cannot repeat because I can't. But I know what you mean, and I thank you, and I appreciate that. So. But guys, once you get into it, it's fun. It is. You just have to spend a little bit more time with it, especially if you don't find it fun. And if you don't find it fun, then you need to look for either a mentor with the association, whatever association you're with. Sometimes you can reach out. AAPC is really good for this. That's one of the things that I like about them. They have a wonderful grassroots movement because there's so many of them, right? And with a HEMA, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. It really all depends. But just find a mentor, and you don't have to. It doesn't have to be from your same association. If you're with a HEMA, you can reach out to somebody with AAPC and get to know them, get to talking to them. Find a tutor. There's a ton of them on LinkedIn. I'm also a tutor myself, and I always leave my rates in the description box below. If there's something that you're stuck on and you can't seem to understand it, reach out for help or do a Google search and see what Google has to say too, because there's lots of resources out there, and it's just a matter of putting in the right words and finding them, because that's what you do. And once you start learning how to research, it's going to make your life a whole lot easier. And doing that will help you, especially if you are in the study prep time for your exam, or you're about to go take your exam again. And it doesn't matter if you have to take your exam again, you have to take your exam again. And there's no shame in it. There's a lot of people that have to do that because medical coding is something that we learn a lot on our own. I had to learn on my own. When I went to trade school, they sat me in front of a computer and said, here, learn. And I had access to a very creepy medical coder that would come in, and he would talk to us about what it was like to be a coder, but he didn't really teach us anything. If we had a question, we could ask him. But again, the dude was creepy. So I was like, no, I'm not asking him anything. I will figure it out on my own. But yeah, so, you know, but that's what, when it comes to learning, you have to be ready to learn on your own too. A lot of things on your own. And that for some is a very, very rude awakening, especially when they were promised so many things by the school. And unfortunately, they get lied to because they're going to tell you whatever they can to get you in. How hard would it be if they had to actually tell people, well, it's a lot of studying, and when you pass your exam, and the exam is really hard to pass, by the way, yeah, and after you do all that, you're gonna have a hard time finding your first job because people don't like to have to train, so employers are lazy, and they're gonna want you to have experience already. But how are you supposed to get experience if no one will hire you? That's when you got to go through the temp agency and you got to do all these other jobs, these medical biller jobs, or not release of information. Well, you can do release of information because we all have HIPAA training, but prior authorizations was what I was trying to think of. You know, something like that. Those alternative positions to be able to get in. They don't tell you that. So because they don't tell you that, a lot of people get mad when they find out the real truth. And that is why I'm here. Because again, I'm not trying to sell you anything. If you get into it, you don't get into it. It's entirely up to you. I'm just telling you what it's like. And what I hope to pass on to the next generation is those study skills and being ready and being prepared. And that it is possible. It's not impossible. My advice anyway. So does anybody else have anything else for the group while I unplug my phone? No? Quiet? Crickets? Cricket? Thank you, Justin, for throwing that out there. Justin says, nope, the studying is definitely difficult. Almost no schools are honest about that. Yeah, because they wouldn't be able to sell the school. They're going to tell you all the good things that you want to hear. Oh, yeah, you can work at home. Oh, yeah, you can have your own business. Oh, yeah, you can do this, and you can have this stupidly high starting salary. Come on. Look in your area. Don't believe them when they say this loud, glittery starting salary. Be realistic, please. Because I'm the one who gets those emails. Hey, why isn't it this much? Because that's for people who have had experience. Yes, it is true. So I'm just saying, you know, like, come on. But somebody said something today. They commented. They said, what did they say? And I really like the comment too. Let's see. What did they say? Hopefully it's right here, the first ones. I really like this comment. They said, such a success story, Bleu. Very thoughtful content and encouraging in your approach, with reality checks included. I like that. I said, oh. I mean, but it's true though. It's just like, I don't know. But Renta says yes. Yes, Bleu, you are. All right. Floor, your laughing face. All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and close it up if nobody else has anything else. But I will say one more thing. I will be going over this again. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a chapter at a time because I relied on y'all to give me questions. And I think some of you weren't ready because I don't know if you just hadn't gone through it. So I figured let's take a step back. Let's go chapter by chapter. So that way, covering chapters at a time, I think will keep the conversation organized instead of just like the Wild Wild West and, you know, whatever's in there, what's in there. Because catching things like the one question that had gynecomastia on a woman, if you know your medical terminology, gynecomastia is a male condition. That would be a good thing to catch. And not only that, it will help sharpen your skills, because when you're looking at these books and you're getting so dependent on really clear documentation, and then when you get in the real world and you see something that looks a little weird, but you're like, okay, because the doctor was the one who documented this, so this is what I pick up, right? This book is going to help you to start questioning, instead of seeing everything as, okay, perfect. And then when you get out in the real world, like, wait a minute, hey, hang on, this isn't so perfect. This is a perfect example of looking for those things that are wrong. And it's not just finding typos. It is actually finding like things wrong with the terminology. Flora says, have a nice night, Blue. I am ready. Good. I'm glad. But like I said, we'll start going over this chapter by chapter until we get it all done. I think that would be fun. But that's me. I do nerdy things and I think it's fun. Justin, I saw a trick question like that, but I was wondering, how would we know what it is and is not right in what the doctor is saying? Because if the doctor is documenting like they're supposed to, like with the chief complaint and everything, you'll know which way they're going, right? And sometimes it'll be like, okay, they started this way and then all of a sudden, what happened here? It was two different things going on. They're like, oh yeah, oh sorry, yeah. And they have to go back, and when you query them, they're like, oh, well, yeah, wait a second, I don't know what happened there. And so they have to go back and fix whatever, and answer the query, you know. So that's how you start learning how to comprehend those types of scenarios, because sometimes that just happens. And sometimes it's just a slip of the finger and they type one word instead of another word, and you know, then they're just like, and it doesn't make sense. And you're like, okay, well, wait, what happened? Sometimes they get distracted too. So that's why it takes time. And once you start looking at that, you'll know what to start questioning. Justin says, oh goodness, I don't got that book. Just going through it with us, you'll pick up a lot of things. Hi Tangela, she says, hey Blue, I have a Coder 1 interview next week. Any tips? Oh, Coder 1 for Coder 1 means different things at different places. Is this for the ER, or is this for like dialysis or something? What kind of clinic is this for? Justin, yeah. How often do you query? Is it a major part of the day? Typically, no, because I have gotten them all where they need to be. However, sometimes they do fall off the wagon. And yes, I went like this because when they fall off the wagon, I'm like, really? We need to go through this again. Oh, I forgot. You forgot. Okay, let's go through this again. So when you have your providers and they have, you know, you've sorted out all those details that need to be there, like on post-ops and on injuries and on all these other things, like if you're working in an ortho clinic, and you get all of that straight, and then everything's fine, and then all of a sudden they start to forget, oh, I forgot to put the date of injury, or I forgot to put the date that they had surgery. Okay, come on, man. If it's missing date of surgery, I kick it back, and they know better. And so that's why I don't have to query as much anymore, because we've gotten into that good routine. But again, sometimes something happens and they fall off the wagon. I got to get them right back on. And I said, okay, let's get right back into it again. So I don't have to do it very much, but there are times when I do have to do it a little bit more than I would like to. But then it's fine. If you have your providers well trained, you don't have to do a lot of queries. It'll be just like onesies and twosies. Okay, Tangela says the coding test I took was for internal medicine. So they are going to ask you questions in this interview, probably about internal medicine, anything and everything that you know. So I would strongly recommend to start reviewing that. Review your guidelines, because they are probably going to ask you about guideline questions too. And make sure that you know that. Make sure that you ask them questions. If they ask you, so do you have any questions for us? Don't say, no. You need to ask something. Ask if you're working from home, or if you're working in an office, you know, are you working with a group of people? Is there a lot of desks in there? Are you working in the clinic? You know, are you expected to do provider education? Is there somebody else that does the queries? Are you supposed to do the queries? Those are the kinds of things that you need to ask. That's engagement right there. Is there CEUs? Are CEUs included? Because sometimes for some employers, it's a benefit of employment. For others, you're on your own. I have a really great employer that they do provide one CEU per month when we go to our coding education classes, and that's good because but yeah, what in the heck? Y'all little trolls need to get out of here. Thank you. Bye bye. I don't know why I had to. I'm working on my last nerve. Thank you. Thanks for those questions. They're good. Let's see what else. What are the hours you can ask and things like that? What are the typical hours for that? And like I said, are you required to give provider education, or is it somebody else? To me, if they tell me, well, no, it falls on the coder, I'd be like, okay. I would show my delight, okay? If it's something that you're excited about, show your delight, because don't be excited about everything, but if it's something that you really want to do, then that would be okay to show, because they like to see excitement. They don't want somebody that's just going to sit there and be like, oh, okay. They want somebody that's going to be engaged. And when I had my interview for this job here, and they were saying, they would tell me something, and I'd be like, oh, I said, yes, I do know this. And I would tell them how I would show I was excited, but even though we were on the phone with each other, so all they heard was my voice, you can hear it. If somebody is genuinely excited about something, you can hear it in their voice. And for me, it was just like, okay. I would also ask them, will you only be assigned one clinic, or are you expected to be a rover, right? Or how long is the ramp up period? Like, how long do you have to meet productivity? If you get hired, how long do you have that to get that? So for some, it's 90 days. Sometimes it's 6 months. It really all depends. So that's just another question that you can ask. Justin, LOL, I'd be terrified to tell a doctor something, at least early on. And see, that's the thing. You have to show no fear. Even though you might be afraid, you have to show no fear, because if they can smell fear, and if they know that you're afraid, they will try to run over you. And that's the thing. You can't let them run over you. If you do, good luck. Good luck ever getting a query answered. Good luck ever getting anything back that you need, because they will not, because they know they can run over you. So while you can be respectful, you can also make them know that you're there to be their partner, and that you're there for business. And this is not where, you're going to do what I say, because that's, according to our ethical standards, that's not what we do. We are not ordered by the physician to code it a certain way. They don't order us. We don't work that way. We code based on the documentation, based on whatever's there. If it is supportive, then yes. If what they selected, if they do the pre-selected codes, if it is not appropriate and we have something more specific, or we have a higher code that we can apply for like an E&M level, or if we have a lower code that we need to apply for an E&M level, then so be it, but they need to be educated. A lot of times these doctors, they're really dependent on themselves to know this stuff, unfortunately. And I have a doctor that's going to be leaving me next year. He's going to another facility. It breaks my heart to lose him. I don't want him to go. I feel so bad. I don't want him to go. But because I trained him. I trained him almost from brand new. And now somebody else gets him. But as we're talking, he's saying that his colleagues in other facilities are saying, yeah, bro, we need to know how to code these things ourselves, because the coders don't know. And I go, he goes, they're not like you, Bleu. But it's shocking. It hurt, because it was just like, that's your coder. That's supposed to be your partner. And all coders should think this way, but they don't. And so he said, well, I kind of agree with him that I have to be like on the lookout, like I have to know this stuff. And I said, and I only hope that I trained you well enough that when you leave, you're going to be ready. He goes, I'll be ready. I'll be ready. He goes, you taught me well. Don't worry. So, we'll see. Zina Marie, hi Blue, how are you? I'm sorry I'm late. Oh, it's okay. It's all right. Thank you for the blue heart. But yeah, we're just chit-chatting here. But yeah, so Justin, Blue, it's good that we found you at the start of our careers, so you can help us to know the correct way of being a professional coder. Well, at least I hope so. I hope so, because when you are getting around these doctors, and these doctors, and some of them are a trip. They'll be, some of them are very receptive. They'll work with you because they understand and they know. Others will be like, I've never had any exposure to anybody like you. Who are you? How dare you ask me or tell me anything? I'm a doctor. I went to medical school. Yes, I know. You went to medical school. I got that. But I'm also here to be your partner because I know the coding. You need me. You need me to help you with this because their understanding of things versus our understanding of the guidelines and the rules and everything, it works. It's supposed to work. And how they document and what they do and talking to them so that you get familiar with what they're doing, it goes a long way. If you don't understand what they're doing, it makes it a lot harder to code what they're doing. If you understand it, and if you start listening to all that language, it starts getting easier. Trust me. I learned that. Justin says probably a lot of coders are bad because they weren't taught right. And see, that's the thing too. A lot of times when I will get mail from people and it'll say, well, Blue, I never knew that. And I've been a coder for 6-7 years and I just never knew how to talk to providers, or I never knew that I could send a coding tip of the week and do something like that. Well, I mean, that's just putting out that line. And so that way that they know that the communication is open. And because a lot of times they're like, well, I'm scared. I was scared too. Woof. When I first met my provider, well, we were housed away from our providers for the longest time. We were housed away in a separate building. Then we got a big, brand new, beautiful hospital built. And so they made sure that they had a space in every clinic to embed the medical coders because they wanted coders to have a closer relationship with the providers. The first time I met them, it had been in the old hospital and I didn't know them, so I was just very shy and I was just really quiet and didn't say anything. And then like, oh, this is Blue, and I'm like, hi. I look back at the time I first met them, I felt so stupid because I was so shy, and they were like, hi, and I'm like, hi, I like look down at the ground because we were there as part of a presentation, but I don't know why we weren't allowed to speak, but our supervisor spoke, and we were just there. And to me, I said, it should be us speaking. We're the coders. And so I was just like, whatever. But what I did was, I said, let's bring in donuts. Let's bring in bananas and water and things like that and orange juice. So that way, hey, it's a meeting. They were, well, Blue, why are you doing that? I said, it's first thing in the morning. You think that a lot of these guys haven't had breakfast yet? They're going to be sitting there wanting to listen about coding. Come on. You got to make it comfortable for them. And so I brought all this stuff. I was like, oh, fine. I'll bring it myself. Fine. But they were like, oh, wow, thanks. And I'm like, oh, just so quiet and stupid. And so our supervisor just stood up there. She's like, oh, and she starts delivering her message. So at the end, I was like, oh, hello, nice to meet you, that kind of thing. And then when we moved into the new hospital and we had like a open house, like my partner, I had a work partner, and we were both embedded in this clinic together. And so we both decided to do an aloha welcome, right? Because everybody was new. This hospital was brand new. Like it had the new car smell on it. That's how new it was. And so we were all moved in, and we had like, we did an aloha theme. I wore an aloha dress, and so did my partner. And we didn't wear grass skirts though, but we did wear aloha wear. And I think she put like one of those little flowers in her hair. Very cute. And so we had like donuts, and we had fresh fruit, and like little fruit things, with the little palm tree, not palm tree, what is it? The umbrella, little umbrella things. So that was nice. And we said, we're inviting everybody so that we can meet everybody. And so it was a lot of handshaking and a lot of smiles and nods and things like that. And that was okay. But then when we had our first education meeting with them, I was like, and I got so nervous where I was like, oh my God, I can't. I told my partner, I said, I can't. And she goes, yes, you can. She goes, just chill out, Bleu. It's all right. She goes, they put their pants on the same way we do, one leg at a time. And I said, I know, but I said, you go first, and then I'll go. And then she said, okay. So she's like, hi, everybody. And she's just that way. She's real, just that way. And so then it was my turn. She's like, go ahead. And I'm like, I was like, hi, everybody. I'm Bleu. And they were just looking at me, and I'm like, come on, Bleu. Come on. I was like, okay. And on this slide, we all can see, and I'm like, and it was okay, right? And so I was like, and so at the end, when I stopped talking, my partner was smiling. She's like, you did good. And so I was like, okay, good, And so at the end of the meeting, instead of everybody like taking off, right? The providers actually stayed, and they were like, hey, don't you drive that? And then they said this other sports car. I was like, no. And so I told them all about, my car. And so they were like, oh, we thought it was just, I said, no. Because they named another sports car. And I won't say the name of the other sports car because I don't want to offend anybody. But I was like, yeah, no. So then that was how we started building those relationships. And that's how I started learning how important it was. And it was a lot easier after that to talk to them and to query them and ask them questions, and my little trip down memory lane. But when I first started, man, I was a mess. I was a hot mess in the beginning. But now it's just like, okay, I can go in and take over that class, and I'm ready for you. And that's what I do. And that's what I hope to pass on to you guys, how to do this properly so that you have success too. Anyway, I would guess I will go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. I hope you've been catching those modifiers. The series continues tomorrow. I don't know which one I'm going to start with first, but it will be on at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time tomorrow and Sunday. It goes all the way for 25 days. So we are already 10 episodes in. Today was a double feature. Mahogany says, hi, Bleu. Thanks for sharing these nuggets of info. Greatly appreciated. I'm so glad. Justin, I learned about modifiers just recently, actually, so those are helpful. Oh, great. I'm glad because like when I'm looking at this stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta remember to tell them this, and I gotta remember to tell them that. So yeah, at the end of the series, towards the end of the series, I'm going to start doing the combination modifiers when like the two will apply. And because there's times when more than one modifier is going to be applied. So that's going to be towards the end of the series. I wanted to make sure that I talked about all the modifiers that I could before I start talking about those combination ones. So if you're looking forward to that, that will be towards the end. All right. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Like, subscribe, share. Have a great weekend, and I will see y'all again. Bye.